Jin's rumored girlfriend was once close to Jungkook. Their icy interactions spark chaos in the fandom. Jungkook's cryptic warning reveals her dark side, and now Jin may regret everything. The truth is deeper, darker, and more dramatic than anyone imagined. It all started with a glance. Not just any glance, but a chilling, cold, and silent exchange caught on camera during a recent BTS backstage segment. Fans initially thought nothing of it. Just another moment of fatigue in the middle of a hectic schedule. But days later, a bombshell surfaced. One that threatens to unravel not only the fragile emotional fabric behind BTS, but the very brotherhood that made the group iconic. The woman now rumored to be dating Jin. Yes, that Jin, BTS's worldwide handsome, and the group's eldest, has a secret. A secret she never told him. A secret that someone else in the group already knew far too well. That someone? Jungkook. Why did Jungkook's smile vanish the moment she walked into the room? Why did his laughter suddenly fade into stiff silence when she casually placed a hand on Jin's shoulder? Why did he leave early, without saying goodbye, and with eyes that refused to meet anyone's? Rumors began swirling faster than anyone could contain. And then a leak. A single post. Deleted within minutes, but it was too late. The fandom exploded. Screenshots were dissected. Past live streams were combed through. Fans found clues, old tweets, matching jewelry, a similar dog in the background of two unrelated photos from different years. The puzzle started to take shape. Could it really be true? Did Jungkook once love the same woman who now holds Jin's heart? And most terrifying of all, did she plan this? The tension inside the fandom reached unbearable levels. But behind closed doors, the story taking place was even more haunting, more personal, and more real than any fan theory could ever guess. That it wasn't just awkwardness. It wasn't just discomfort. It was betrayal. Inside sources, requesting anonymity for their safety and privacy, described a dark shift in Jin's mood once the truth came out. According to one staff member, Jin went silent for hours after a private conversation with Jungkook. He looked lost, the source claimed, like someone who had just seen a ghost. But what exactly did Jungkook say? And more importantly, why now? Some believe Jungkook had been keeping the truth buried out of loyalty to Jin, hoping the relationship would fizzle out before things got too serious. But when Jin went public, smiling, holding hands, the romantic photos lighting up fan pages, Jungkook finally spoke. Not through words, but through code. In a live stream days after the photos were posted, Jungkook answered a fan question about trust. His response? Chills. Was a metaphor? A lyric reference? Or a veiled cry for help? Suddenly, an old song Jungkook had written years ago resurfaced. One about being used, abandoned, and replaced. Fans linked the lyrics to a specific period when he went off social media for nearly a month. And that month, it turns out, aligned perfectly with the timeline when he was allegedly involved with the very woman Jin is now in love with. Coincidence? Not likely. But the real twist came when fans noticed a subtle gesture from Jin, a deleted post of his own. A photo of the woman, smiling with her hand on his chest, was suddenly removed from his story. No explicación. No repost. Gone. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. BTS, the group that redefined loyalty and brotherhood, was now trapped in an emotional spiral that no one saw coming. For years, the army had watched these seven brothers rise above every rumor, every scandal, every whisper of internal tension. But this was different. This wasn't a media fabrication. This was real, personal, painful. The woman, still unnamed officially but heavily speculated upon by army detectives online, had resurfaced like a ghost from the past. Once barely a footnote in Jungkook's early adult life, now she stood hand in hand with Jin, glowing in the spotlight and embraced by the very fandom that unknowingly cheered on what could be the most uncomfortable love triangle in K-pop history. Fans didn't know whether to feel betrayed, confused, or protective. Protective of Jungkook, whose silence screamed louder than words. Protective of Jin, who now appeared increasingly withdrawn in group content. And protective of the BTS bond itself. A bond many feared could fracture under the pressure of emotional history no one was ready to confront. But it wasn't just the fandom that noticed. Staff members at HYB, former stylists, even a distant relative of a backup dancer started hinting at what had been bubbling under the surface for months. Whispers of tension between Jin and Jungkook had allegedly begun during rehearsals for BTS's final group performance before enlistments. Sources recalled that during practice, Jin would often glance at Jungkook, waiting for a reaction, only to receive none. It was as if Jungkook had become unreadable, guarded, a far cry from the playful younger brother he'd always been around Jin. And that emotional wall? It grew thicker the more time Jin spent with her. Perhaps the most chilling sign came from a birthday via live. Normally filled with warmth, laughs, and chaos, Jungkook's most recent birthday live was subdued. Then came the footage, unedited clips from a behind-the-scenes shoot in Japan that had somehow slipped past the editing floor. In it, Jin and the woman shared a brief kiss. What was supposed to be a sweet moment for fans became something else entirely when the camera panned and captured Jungkook, just feet away, looking straight into the lens with an expression no one could decode. Was it shock, disgust, sadness, or something darker? And still, he said nothing that he didn't have to, because Jungkook, in typical fashion, did what he always does when overwhelmed. He turned to art. Days later, he released an acoustic demo on Weverse, raw and unpolished. The lyrics spoke of watching someone where your memories like they were never yours, of a heart that never said goodbye, but was replaced anyway. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't cryptic. It was heartbreak bleeding between every note. And Jin didn't post anything. For the first time since his rumored relationship became public, Jin went radio silent. No selfies, no messages, no replies. Only one change was noticed. A soft, sorrowful piano instrumental posted to his Instagram story late at night. The title? Did you know? It vanished after 24 hours. But Army screenshotted it. They always do. Then came the final blow, the moment everything changed. The room fell quiet. The host laughed nervously and tried to move on. But the damage was done. That sentence lit the fandom on fire. Screenshots, edits, reactions. Is he talking about her? Is this his response to Jungkook's song? Has Jin finally seen who she is? The timeline was unraveling like a thread pulled too tight for too long. And behind the scenes, insiders now say, the brotherhood has never been more strained. Jungkook no longer stays behind after group schedules. Jin has reportedly opted to travel separately on at least 2 occasions. The air, according to one staff member, feels frozen. Like everyone is pretending nothing's wrong, but they all know. But what if it wasn't just a matter of heartbreak? What if the woman wasn't just a romantic link from Jungkook's past, but someone who manipulated her way into the circle for reasons far more calculated? Some fans have pointed out disturbing overlaps between her presence and certain business decisions. Brand endorsements tied to her family. PR moves that seemed too well-timed. A rise in visibility that didn't feel natural. Could this be more than love? Could this be infiltration? And if that's true, did Jin fall into a trap? Or worse, was she using Jungkook back then too? The questions mount. The answers remain elusive. And as the fandom fractures between those defending Jin's right to love and those mourning Jungkook's silent suffering, one thing has become terrifyingly clear. This isn't just gossip. This is a fracture line in BTS's foundation. Point one that, if left unattended, could split wide open. But then, just as the storm seemed to reach its peak, Jin posted something. Was it about the relationship? About ignoring Jungkook's unspoken warnings? About trusting someone who wore innocence like a weapon? Jungkook, days later, posted too. Just a song lyric, this time from BTS's own track, and now the fandom waits. Watches, wonders that what's next? Can the bond between Jin and Jungkook ever be healed? Will the woman speak out? Will HYBE step in? Or is this the quiet beginning of a storm that could one day bring down everything BTS built? The silence is louder than ever. And still, No one knows the whole truth. Not yet.